Hey folks, so I was watching YouTube today and I saw a new series of videos posted by a user that I've subscribed to called marcaeld, and he posts a lot of news clips from different sources, mostly libertarian related, and I saw a new one that he posted today. It's an interview by Paul. The interview is with Ivan Eland on a new book that he's written called Recarving Rushmore, ranking the presidents on peace, prosperity, and liberty, dated April 4th, 2009. It's an hour-long interview, 6 parts, but it was very informative. I learned a lot. They talk about history. In the book that Ivan Eland has written, he ranks the presidents based on their the policies that they pursued with relation to peace, prosperity, and liberty. And so I watched it twice now. The second time I went through, I liked it so much that I took some notes so that I could share with you just briefly. He says that perhaps those on Rushmore were great Americans, but not necessarily great presidents. I'm reading from the notes that I've taken here. Textbooks tend to be biased. Textbooks that are used in schools and universities tend to be biased towards charismatic activist presidents. Activist as in increasing powers, increasing the executive branch powers, and also presidents that have served during a crisis, i.e. during war or the Depression, served during some kind of crisis, although that certainly won't be true of Bush. But alright, cool. So again, his criteria were peace, prosperity, and liberty. He also said that they did they stay within the confines of the founders' idea of what the executive should be. Alright. He starts off by talking about Thomas Jefferson, who he concluded was a great American and a champion of liberty, but fell down a bit as president. He was a bit of a hypocrite. He wanted to talk about his top 5 presidents. These are based on he graded these by limited government, restrained executive branch, and restrained foreign policy. Alright, number 1, John Tyler, who avoided several wars. He ended the longest Indian War by coming up with a compromise between our nation and the Native Americans. Number 2 then was Grover Cleveland, who believed that the president was just the executor of the laws passed by Congress. So he wasn't going to legislate, he was only executing the laws being passed by Congress. It's quite an idea, huh? Number 3 was then Martin Van Buren, who had poor policies against Native Americans, so that's why he's ranked a little lower. Poor policies against Native Americans, but he put in the best banking system the U.S. ever had. Also for letting, he was also rated high because during recession, he would let market forces recalibrate the economy rather than government intervention. Number 4 then was Rutherford B. Hayes. Number 5 was Chester Arthur. Those are his top 5 presidents: John Tyler, Grover Cleveland, Martin Van Buren, Rutherford B. Hayes, and Chester Arthur. Alright, he goes on to talk about William McKinley, who was the first modern activist president, who concentrated the power in the White House. He set the stage for Teddy Roosevelt, who took over after McKinley's assassination. Alright, after him, of course, came Woodrow Wilson, who got us into World War I, but that turned out to be the most important event in the 20th century. FDR, after Woodrow Wilson, a little farther down the line, FDR came in, who brought back many of the agencies created during World War I, but then changed the names of those, gave them all new names. Alright, Wilson, he then stated that Wilson was rated dead last, dead last. I thought that was funny. States that war perverts your republic at home by making the executive too powerful. War perverts your republic at home by making the executive too powerful. Wilson wanted the League of Nations. Britain and France wanted heavy reparations from Germany. This is after World War I, alright? While they're in Paris, Wilson wanted the League of Nations, part of his 14 points, but the British and French wanted wanted heavy reparations from Germany, so they compromised. They got the reparations, and Wilson got his League of Nations, which of course failed. And then the reparations that went to the British and the French decimated Germany during the Great Depression, which led to hyperinflation. He goes on to argue that Wilson contributed to the rise of Hitler through his policies. He also contributed to the Bolshevik Revolution. He states that Allies invaded Russia to stay in the war. Allies invaded Russia to stay, wanted Russia to stay in the war. But the Bolsheviks were the only anti-war party, which the Russians took heavy casualties. The Bolshevik war got less popular. Bolsheviks rose, and then eventually we invaded Russia in what's called the Polar Bear Expedition. Now I had to look that up because he just said we invaded Russia, and I was like, what? We invaded Russia? During the Russian Revolution, during the Bolshevik Revolution, British and the British and the French pleaded with us to help the White Russians. So we went in with the British. Wilson sent 8,000 troops into northern Russia in 1918, and then they came out again in 1919 after they failed. The Reds won, the Bolsheviks won, and so that's why the Bolsheviks hate us, i.e. What caused the Cold War. Alright, so maybe if we hadn't gone into Russia in 1918, there might have been no Cold War, or no Vietnam, no Korea. It's interesting, huh? Let's see, what else did I find out? He states that government is presently 1/3 of our economy, but until 1900 it was only 5% of our economy. Reagan doubled the size of government during his tenure. He talks about how Reagan wasn't such a great president, although he talked a lot. There's a lot of rhetoric, but during his term he did double the size of government. He did give tax cuts, but he also raised spending as a proportion of GDP. He was surprised that spending actually went down during the Clinton and Carter administrations. Reagan was the first president after Vietnam to start ramping up interventionism with Grenada and Libya. FDR created the Tennessee Valley Administration and the Real Electrification Commission, which competed against private utilities during the Great Depression there. So they competed against private utilities, but they're government projects, right? So the government's making the rules and playing the game at the same time. So, he states that that's not really fair. I can see that. And he also says, to conclude my notes here, he says that his book is trying to say maybe we should reevaluate our history and get back to the founders' original vision of the country and educate people on what that is. Alright, that was his book. Again, the title of the book, it's by Ivan Eland. It's called Recarving Rushmore, ranking the presidents on peace, prosperity, and liberty. I haven't read the book, but I watched the hour interview. It's a good one. I think you should go watch it. These are just my notes here. I'll put a link over there. Alright? Go watch it. It's very fascinating stuff. Cheers.